the market volatility has a lot to do with the ownership.
Yep.
And in this case, Donald Trump owns most of the company.
It was another wild week for Trump media and technology as the stock once again reacts to a busy news cycle for the former president and current candidate, but it's likely just the beginning. Let's dive in. From a cash exercise announcement to a presidential debate, Trump Media and Technology Group saw major changes all last week. We're here to talk about it. Chris, Thomas, let's start with a quick look back at what's behind all of the recent activity for the stock. Fill us in here.
Well, there's a lot of news to drive this stock. This is definitely a meme quality stock. But for the past week, there's really three things that have been driving the market. And that was the exercise of warrants, allowed the company to raise some money and impacted some dilution. There was the presidential debate, which certainly gave people a reason to believe one candidate or the other was more likely to win. And then there was a SCOTUS decision, whether or not Donald Trump could be held liable for some things that he's done and said, but he got some partial immunity to that. And in general, the market's responding pretty favorably, it looks like.
Now, what exactly does DJT do? Can you share a little bit of a background on this company for as a whole, maybe for some of us that aren't as familiar with this?
Sure, that's a good place to start, Lacey. So Trump Media and Technology Group, which trades under the symbol DJT, it's the parent company for the social media platform Truth Social. And that's the simplest way for investors to understand that. And the reason why I say that is because I think if you're looking at the stock from the perspective of an investor, that's what you're investing in. You're investing in a social media platform. There's really not a lot of information that investors have to go off of. It's only had one earnings report since going public. Company doesn't make that much revenue. It's not profitable. And there were some concerns, if you look at it again as an investor, in their last earnings report. It's saying that they're having trouble solidifying their base of users, and that they're not really sure how that trend is going to go if Donald Trump decides that Truth Social is not going to be the exclusive platform that he's, posting content on.
Right. He's pretty important for the business. He's pretty central to everything that they do.
Yeah.
And Thomas, that's actually what I wanted to ask. What kind of role does Trump play in it? He's essential, as you're saying, but is he leading it? Is he involved in the business decisions, or how does that kind of play out?
Well, knowing what I do about Trump, I have to say that I think he is involved with the decisions, whether or not the execs want him to be. But I think generally speaking, he's like a figurehead. He's the face of the company. He's not really involved with the operations. He might come up with some ideas that he wants people to follow, but there's a team of other people whose job it is to actually make this company work.
All right, well, whatever his role is, the company seems to react daily to anything that the former president does, and we're going to dive into that in just a moment. But first, here's a tool investors can use to track the ups and downs of every stock in their portfolio. Want to keep your finger on the pulse of the market? Text the word YouTube to 68285. That's 68285, and get free breaking news alerts from MarketBeat for the stocks that matter most to you. Don't miss out on crucial updates. Stay informed and stay ahead. So we know a lot of stocks tend to react to the news of the day, but DJT really is unique in just how reactionary it can be on a given day. Tell us more about that.
Well, right. The market volatility has a lot to do with the ownership.
Yep.
And in this case, Donald Trump owns most of the company. Like I think at least 50%. Chris said I think maybe close to 60%, but quite a bit amount of the company.
Yeah.
So it's really a low float stock. Only a small amount of the stock has been floated on the market. And when you look at the short interest compared to the number of shares allowed is like 1 or 2%. But the short interest compared to the float is like 10 or 12%. So it's also a highly shorted stock. So we've got a meme quality stock with a low float and a high short interest with a reactionary volatile news environment. So what you're going to get is a lot of volatility, up and down movements.
Yep.
So there is a lot of volatility, as we know, kind of with any meme stock, but are we going to be seeing any positive swings for DJT, or is there more just of that back and forth, as you mentioned, depending on the headline of the day?
Yeah, I think you're going to see a lot of back and forth with this stock. I mean, that's kind of where the stock kind of gives itself up as far as who's really trading in it right now. If you were investing in the stock because of Truth Social, there's really no reason to explain a lot of the price movement that's happening with it right now. What's happening with it is clearly happening because of the events of the day. When the ruling in the New York trial came out, stock went down. Since then, it's been ticking back up, and it ticked back up sharply last week after the debate. It's really being driven by what investors perceive about Donald Trump, not necessarily what it perceives about Truth Social.
Yeah, right. It's a very good point. The stock market is not tied to fundamentals. It's tied to a news cycle and an image of Donald Trump. There's a lot of market mechanics involved with it, not so much fundamentals.
Yep.
I wouldn't expect to see too much difference other than volatility within this range until the company starts to exhibit at least revenue growth, if
Right.
not some better profitability.
So we can maybe agree that there's not any actual business moves here. It's just that kind of reaction to the news.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think it's too early to tell what Truth Social is going to be. And so again, as an investor, it's hard to get a grip on what the company is.
Right. And they're trying to get involved in, I think, streaming TV content as well.
I agree.
I think there's like 2 different platforms along that way. DJT Plus, I think it was
Right.
called, something like that. So yeah, there's definitely some questions up in the air. What's going to happen?
Well, the streaming services aspect of that will be on our radar. Is there anything else that investors interested in maybe buying DJT should be prepared for?
I don't see a lot of market conviction in this stock. There's no analysts covering it. The institutions are not involved with it. So
Right.
until that happens, I really think that this stock will remain range bound and that investors should expect some pretty large swings.
Right.
And just talking about the swings and the volatility, using beta as a reference, this stock has a 6x beta, which means it moves 6 times as much as the S&P 500 has since it's been IPO'd. That's huge. I mean, if the market crashes, people invested in this stock are going to lose their bottoms. I mean, that's just,
for a lot of the reasons Thomas just said, I think it's really hard to justify anybody taking a long position in the stock. I as far as a trade, I suppose people could look at it and take a short position if you think that Donald Trump will exercise his option in September and sell some of his stock. But even if you were going to think about going short, I don't know, Thomas. I mean, are you thinking you'd have to wait for the stock to go up to about what, $50?
yeah, anybody that wants to try to buy in or sell in to this market to try to capture some of those volatile gains needs to really target support and resistance levels. You need to wait for these levels to be exceeded. You need to wait for signals to be given, because even if it goes down to the bottom of the range and you expect a rebound, there's nothing saying that it's going to rebound.
Right.
Well, a lot of risk here and a lot for investors to consider. Thanks for breaking it all down for us today, guys. We're going to continue to follow the highs and lows of this stock throughout the election season and beyond. Until then, happy investing.